Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for asking me.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you. You are one of the guys in what is known as the Wolf Pack, the meeting that my son has been going to, my youngest son. So I'm so grateful to you and all the guys who have been supporting him. Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you first off, and
Oh, you're
just welcome
welcome.
you to the podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor. I've heard a lot about it. I think when you first started it, I heard one of your podcasts, and then for whatever reason, I kind of drifted away. I'm not a big podcast listener, but I might become one now.
That might change. Yeah, no, they're so much fun. Yeah, so I started the podcast about 5 years ago. And so I started it and then sort of tentatively kind of eased my way into it. So it was about 4.5 years ago. It was in January that I did like the full on launch. So I don't actually post the episodes to my like personal Facebook, but that might change.
Well, I think congratulations is in order because I hear you're the number 4 podcaster in this environment in the
Well,
nation.
thank you. I was like, we're number 4.
Yeah, woo!
So
That's saying a lot.
that's
That's
fun. Yeah. And there's this other site that measures podcasts, and it indicated we were in top 2%. So that feels, I'm so grateful to my guests. Thank you for asking about that or pointing it out. And I'm just really so grateful to all the guests like you who are willing to come on and share their story, because you and I were raised in 12 step where anonymity is important. And there's a time and place. However, we were just discussing before we started about, the mainstream needs to know that alcoholics or addicts are not always men with paper bags in trench coats living under bridges.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there still are those.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
a
a lot of
thing.
us are, high bottom, they had to raise the bottom for some of the people coming in here, which is great, because
Yeah.
the destruction I caused was not as, I didn't lose it all. See, that
Okay.
wasn't my bottom, but still it was destructive enough to, destroy a family and another marriage before that. So, it
Yeah.
is important that no matter where, if it's the brown paper bag under the bridge or if it's the bank president, or CEO of a company, alcoholism and drug abuse cuts across all the bowels of all society.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. And I have lots of questions for you. I've never had the opportunity to sort of sit one-on-one with you and grill you as I do, interrogate you.
I'm
I
ready.
promise it won't be, it shouldn't be painful. We should have a little fun on this one.
Absolutely.
I do like to start with what I've been calling, it used to be called the lightning round, and I think I'm going to change the name to the turtle round because it's a series of slow questions, but it does sort of prompt a good discussion. So if you want to play along, we'll jump.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's so sweet. Okay. When you first got sober, was there any books that really changed your mind or changed your life early when you first got sober?
Well, I'm not a huge reader, but of course, after I got my sponsor, and when I went to a recovery center, it's called the Camp in Scotts Valley, and of course, the big book was there. We read out of the big book daily, but I wasn't a huge reader, even in school. I don't know, just reading wasn't my thing, but I read books like on Nikola Tesla and
Oh,
Harry Houdini. Uh, but my reading was more like popular mechanics and stuff like that. Uh, I'm kind of going through the backyard blacksmith. It's become one of my many hobbies that keeps me busy in
this is why we
retirement.
call you the tool man.
That's why they call me the
That's
tool
his
man. Yeah.
nickname. So
But
fun. Okay, so the big
so
book, you read the big book early in
I
recovery?
read the big book. I read the 12 by 12. I read Living Sober. I read Came to Believe. I read and this is non-AA approved, but Hazelton, the first year, second year, and third year what you can expect out of each one of those years. So
Okay.
those were the types of books that I read, at least related to sobriety in my
Okay.
early recovery.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'll have links to all those in the show notes.
Great.
Um, do you have like a go-to mantra or quote that you live by, or something that really changed your mind?
I'm working with approximately, well, we'll call it 5. I have 6, but we won't talk about the 6th one.
Now I want to, that's
He's,
all I want to know.
oh, he's still here. He's going to meetings, but
Oh,
we're
per
really not.
people. Got it.
Yeah. But so what I tell them is do what's right in front of you.
Mm.
That's one of my favorite sayings. Another one that I heard that I use is, if you woke up this morning, God's not done with you yet.
Mm.
So
That.
yeah. I mean, we're not promised each day. If I wake up, and then I just heard one recently that I may start using, is I went to bed sober and I woke up an alcoholic. So, you have to start,
I totally
each
get
day
it.
remembering that I'm an alcoholic. That isn't ever going to change. It's like, I don't remember if you remember or were at the old club that I originated, Alana West, but George used to say, I was a cucumber. I became a pickle. I can never be a cucumber again.
Right. Yeah. This is true. I love that last one. I've never heard that before. Went to bed sober, woke up an alcoholic, to sort of
Yeah,
keep that idea of a daily reprieve and to remind us to do all the self-care stuff that has helped us go through an entire day sober.
absolutely.
Genius. Do you have a regular self-care practice or recovery routine?
I do. As you know, my home group is 6 a.m. in the morning, and it has been for my whole sobriety. It worked out well in my schedule in early sobriety. But I also found that at 6 a.m., there's not a lot of drama, like in the evening meetings from the days. You wake up and it's about the solution. We don't do the normal stuff, how it works, and all that stuff. As far as the readings go, we say 2 prayers in the beginning of the meeting, we get right into the meeting, and then we say 2 prayers after. Of course, I have my own prayer, which includes, God, please guide me today and guide my thinking. That's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, love that.
And then I go to 6 a.m. and then after that I come home, and at 7:30, where
Mhm.
Tyler is, he we do the men's meeting. So that one I've been doing for, I don't know, a year and a half, well, all through last year, pretty much. I think I probably started really in 2019 or maybe even earlier. My memory's not so good, but
Same.
that's kind of my routine. And then I do
Love it.
what's right in front of me. If I
Uh-huh.
have, because I am busy as far as hobbies goes, but I do have adult stuff to do every day.
Right. But I know
Plus,
you also, yeah, I know that your recovery practice includes being of service and helping others. And I know you have a sponsor and do all that work too.
absolutely.
Yeah, really important. What's one thing you wish you knew when you first got sober? Can you think of anything?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
I know there's so
I
many
wish I knew a
things.
better lawyer for my divorce. Actually, I had somebody ask me, hey, do you know a good divorce lawyer? And I said, yeah, my
My
ex-wife.
ex-wife.
Oh man. But you know what? I made it through that.
Yeah.
I just, I think I wish I maybe had a closer contact with a higher power, but that's something that gets developed over time. So the way that it unfolded, I think, is exactly the way it was supposed to.
I would agree with
Uh,
that. Yeah. It
and
seems like a
and
kinder, more gentler, trusting attitude, right?
yeah,
I've often thought if we could just boil down the whole program into one word, it would be relax. Just relax, and trust and allow things to unfold. I have lived a very long time thinking I need to hurry up and get this done before time runs out. But what if there is no time? And what if you have all the time in the world? And what if everything, what if everything is as it should be, for whatever reason. Um, anyway, I don't know why I
I
said
think it,
that, but we'll
yeah,
just
I
move
think
on.
it is.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never know what's going to happen, but I have, like I talk about, the tools that I have today, the sobriety tools, and I started out with a teeny tiny toolbox of
Right.
3 tools: willingness, open-mindedness, and then the honesty came. So I'm not a how or a who, I'm a whoa.
Oh, whoa.
But I've gathered, I've been, my sobriety date is May 26th of 2000. So since then, I've gathered enough tools for a rollaway mechanics box of sobriety tools. And so that's kind of why they call me the Toolman, is because I talk about the sobriety tools,
Yeah.
which include, the principles of the program, phone numbers, a higher power is my power tool, right? That's my
Right.
biggest power tool in the toolbox. A phone, other books, and just all the little nuggets that we get each day from different other members.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I love that whole analogy. It makes a lot of sense to me. What do you do for fun these days? You talked about having a lot of hobbies.
Oh my gosh. So I once I retired, and I'm in my 6th year of retirement, I really picked up on metal art. I do
Mhm.
stained glass. I do woodworking. Now I'm doing forge work, but not as much. I ride motorcycles. I go boating. Um, I have toys to play with,
Yay.
which, by the way, you should always get before you retire, because once you're retired, you're on fixed income, and they're harder to get. They
And
never get any cheaper.
you just need friends who have different toys than you do so you can trade.
Exactly, yeah, or go play with their toys.
Yeah, play with someone
Um,
else's.
I have another house, a vacation home, and it's in a quiet area, so I love going there. There's always work to do, anything with a motor in it, chainsaws, that kind of stuff.
Oh, right.
I love to play with, and but it's good old fashioned hard work, and that kind of, when you're out there, it's like you're closer. You get that connection, I think, better with your higher power. At least I do.
Mm. Yeah, it's that focused attention on something that brings you joy. That it's almost like a meditation, isn't it?
Yeah, I absolutely. You don't have to sit quietly to meditate. I've been on a couple of really long motorcycle trips, and
Mm.
during those trips, when I'm on the road, I don't turn the radio on. I just listen to the motor, and I look around, and I kind of let my mind just open both ends of the ears and just let things flow through. And that way, I've had much stronger contacts with my higher power just riding.
Ah, sounds beautiful. If it weren't for the danger, I would totally be into it.
It's more dangerous in California than it is anywhere else, I think. Maybe
Amen.
not New York, but
Yeah, right, right. Well, listen, thank you so much for playing along with that little turtle round. um, I would love to hear, I have heard bits and pieces of your story over the years. I didn't realize that you had always gone to the ODAT meeting. And that I named the podcast after our beloved 6 a.m. meeting. Funny
absolutely.
story, I did not know that the word ODAT was not commonly known in the broader recovery community. A lot of people are just like, what is ODAT? Like, you have to sort of be in the know in the insider circles. So that's why I changed it to the expanded one day at a time podcast. But all that to say that you are part of a home group that is so special to me because it is a very unique group of people. And I do want to talk about the fellowship. But first, I would love to hear sort of your story. Like, what was your family of origin like? And then you and I discussed that you had a really good story to talk about, what happened to make you go from, possibly being in denial about your drinking, or that it was a problem or whatever, to I'm all in with this recovery process. So I would just love to hear your story in your own words.
Absolutely. So I won't spend a lot of time in the past, but I can tell you that I don't know when my first drink was. My whole dad's side of the family were alcoholic. My mom's side was Italian. So it was okay when you were a child at the dinner table to get a little bit of wine and water in a glass at Sunday dinners and that kind of thing. But my first drink was probably around 2 years old, and my dad probably gave me sips from his beer. My drinking really started probably around 13, and I hung around people that, we'll call it, partied like I did. They drank like I did. Drugs are a part of my story. I was a chemist. I was searching for that perfect combination of chemicals. And most people will understand what I'm talking about, that perfect feeling, that first time that you got a buzz on a beer, or that first joint that you ever, well, the first one I ever smoked, I threw up after that, but that's okay. After that, it was great for a while. But that perfect combination of chemicals that gave you that feeling. And I always use the example of, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, there it is. There it goes, there it goes, there it goes, there it goes. And now I'm chasing, trying to balance, up too high, up too low, trying to balance that feeling. And I never could. Also, the people that I hung around with, like I said, partied like I did. I grew up not ever thinking about alcoholism or what it was, what drinking was, because of my dad's side of the family was a competition. They were the top. They were the competitive drinkers. They could outdrink anybody and still be standing. So that's the way that I grew up. That's the way that I viewed drinking, as you had to be able to drink a lot and hold your alcohol. And when I started working, of course, I ran into the same type of people. Out of high school, I went to work, and I hung around the same type of people, even my supervisors. We would run down to the local restaurant, have a pitcher of beer and a meatball sandwich, and come back. At break time, we'd go out into the parking lot and smoke a joint and then go back to work. It was never an excuse that, hey, I was hungover, that I couldn't go to work. That was my philosophy. If it ever became a problem, I would address that, which I never did. I never did. But I almost always went to work. There was a few times, of course, where I made some stupid excuse. So that was pretty much how I treated the drinking. I got married in the 80s, late 70s to 80s. That marriage lasted 5 years, and basically because of drugs and alcohol. One day I went to work, and when I came home, half the house was gone, and there was a note, because the house was more of a clubhouse than anything else. People were coming at all times of the day or night, and you can probably figure out why. And there was always something going on. So I kept, that was my first time that I ever stopped drinking. And my friend told me, you're supposed to stop before the wife leaves you. And I go, well, I'm going to quit for 30 days. And I quit for 2 weeks, and I go, I got this. And I started drinking again. So later on, I got married again. It was late 80s. And I had 2 children, a boy and a girl. And then we moved to the house that I'm currently in now, after it was probably 94 or so. And I was always there. I always worked hard, came home, went to the kids' events, soccer, baseball, whatever it was, had the parties, had the Easter egg hunts at the house with the neighborhood kids. But once that part of it was done, then it was Dad's turn. And a lot of times my kids would even ask Mom, hey, where's Dad? Or how come he's out there in the garage with the door locked? And she would have to make up some kind of excuse. So things progressively started getting worse and worse as far as drinking. I drank at home, didn't really go out a lot, didn't really drink at bars anymore. And the last 3 years of my drinking career, I had a gallbladder surgery, and they had a chance to look at my liver. And I thought, and the surgeon knew that I had some trouble. Hep C is what I had. and they wanted to actually look at my liver. And after the surgery, he goes, "Your liver's not in great shape." He goes, "It's in excellent shape for the age that you are." And I thought, oh man, because I thought I'd be needing a liver transplant because of the abuse, you know. And so that was hammer down time. You know, it was like, oh, I got the green light. Everything's pretty good. So my disease progressed, and I started getting this hole in my chest, in my soul, and it started growing bigger and bigger and bigger. We started having more problems at home. I sought counseling, but it doesn't really work when you're still drinking and partying and lying to the counselor. I tried couples counseling. I even tried some of that controlled drinking, but I wouldn't drink during the week. But come Friday, it'd be just absolute insanity. And I'd go grab a quart of vodka, drink it in a few to several hours, and pass out. And sometimes my family would be there and sometimes they wouldn't, but I wouldn't know why they weren't there because I was in a blackout. So here's the fun part of the story. So we were at a counseling session. I actually had been excluded from another event, another trip with it was a camping trip with the neighbors, and I was still trying to make a deal. Hey, look, I won't drink if you don't drink, talking to my wife. And she goes, "Well, I'm not the one with the problem." Even though she drank, she had an off switch. I didn't have an off switch. My off switch was I either passed out or I ran out, one of those two. So we were at a counseling session. The counselor and the wife was ganging up on me. And I went stomping out like a little kid about halfway through and went straight to the liquor store. Now, you got to bear in mind, this was going to be a 4-day weekend because I was with the union. This was going to be a 4-day weekend starting on Thursday night for Memorial Day. So I go stomping out. I get the quart of vodka. I start drinking. She stayed at the counseling session. Sorry about that phone. Anyway, stop it. Okay. Stupid phone. Anyway, so she came home and I had already had a half a heat on, and she started packing for the camping trip. Now the kids are at the grandparents' house. When she would fill up one of the bins, I would turn it upside down. I was a real ass at that time. You know, I was pretty drunk. I threatened to pop the tires with a van, on the van with a knife. And, you know, seeing a drunk guy wielding a knife, waving it around, she got a little scared. But I thought better of it, came to my senses for a minute, in and out of the blackout, and decided that was just going to cost me money and for new tire. So finally she finished packing and she left. At that point, that hole in my soul, in the middle of my chest, had gotten so big that I thought there was a solution to this, and it was to end my life. A real permanent solution to what I found out was a temporary problem. So I got her gun down, 357, and I got my gun down because I didn't want to miss. And I called her and I told her, look, when you come home, I'm probably not going to be here. Now I'm running around the house trying to figure out where to do this. So first of all, I'm going to blow my head off with her gun because it's going to make her feel bad. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it on her side of the bed because it's going to make her feel bad. No, what about her hope chest, you know, where her wedding dress is? I'll do it there. And then I thought, no, you know what? Maybe just in the bathroom because it'll be easier to clean up. And the only thing, this is the tough part, the only thing that kept me from pulling the trigger was the thought of leaving my kids with that legacy. So I didn't. But in the meantime, my wife had called the police to have them come and check on me. Now, my front door at the time was half glass on the top and half wood on the bottom. And the police came to the door, and I came to the door. And they said, hey, we're here to check on you. We hear that maybe you were thinking about hurting yourself. And I said, yes, I was. And they said, well, we also hear that you might have some guns. And I said, yes, I do. And I showed them to them through the glass. And they were on the porch, and they took a giant step off of the porch onto the walkway. But they didn't go away. There was two of them. And they kept trying to get me to come out. Hey, why don't you just come out and talk to us? Well, I knew what come out and talk to us meant. I was going to jail. And finally, they were really messing up my buzz, which was a blackout buzz. And I finally told them, look, why don't you guys just go away and don't try and come in here or I'll blow you away too. And that's when the party started. You don't want to say that to the police. So they start calling all their friends. A sea of blue in my neighborhood. Now I live at a T intersection, one house off the T, and they start filling up the neighborhood and blocking it off. And they keep calling more police. They actually take over the corner couple's house, an older couple, in the middle of the night and make a command post out of it. Now the negotiators start. So then I get one call and I start talking to this negotiator, and finally I'd had enough of him and hung up on him. Then I get another call. It's another negotiator. Hey, what happened to the other guy? And I go, well, he had to go. Now you're talking to me. All right. So I talked to him for a while. Finally had enough of him. I hung up on him. Then the phones start getting messed up. I'm running around the house like a madman, trying to figure out, how do I get rid of all these people? And they keep bringing more police and spotlights on the house. Somewhere around 2:30 in the morning or so, they get everybody out of their house because there's a crazy person that has a gun or more than one. And
Turn the ringer off on that phone.
you know what? I'm going to just put it in the other room. Oh God.
Throw it over there.
Phone. Yeah. Now it's the other phone ringing. Anyway, it'll go off in a minute. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Anyway, so they finally they gave up. I am so sorry.
It's okay.
So I'm on my third negotiator. They actually had a small SWAT team that came, and they were almost done playing with me. The phones were messed up. I'm yelling back and forth out of the bathroom window. I don't have any booze. They're not bringing any pizza or no more vodka, no cigarettes. They're just coming to crash my party. So I'm barricaded in the front bathroom because I know what's coming. And I had headphones on because I didn't want them to throw one of those concussion grenades through the window. Now I watch a lot of TV. And I'm sitting in the bathroom, lid down on the toilet, and I feel this in the back of my head. And I equate it to about the size of lumber of a railroad tie. And I mean, it was a big whack in the back of my head. And in my voice, no, in my head, but not in my voice, I hear, can I use the F word? I hear, this is what I heard, because I got to tell it the way that it was. What the fuck are you doing? Put the guns down and give yourself up. And after I found out that was God's voice. And I did just that. And I unloaded the guns. I went to the door very slowly, turned on the light, walked outside, laid down on the walkway and put my hands behind my back. And I said, I'm done. And they immediately drugged me down the driveway, threw me in a car, and took me downtown to the 8th floor, where at the city jail. And they give you a blanket and someone else's underwear.
Ew.
Yeah, and I think they wash them. I'm hoping they did. I don't care. At that point, I didn't really care. And so now, this is the way I started my 4-day weekend. Looking out a little jail cell window at the airport, and it was early enough to where the planes were starting to take off, and I'm going, how did I get here? Well, I got bailed out, and I couldn't go home because I had a piece of paper called a restraining order that says I couldn't even go anywhere near the neighborhood. And I went to Mom's house, and she goes, I think you need some help. And here I am trying to deal again. How about if I go to AA? And she goes, no, I think you need more help. Because I'd been to one AA meeting way back in the 70s, because I crashed a car behind drugs and alcohol, and she knew somebody, and it was one of the big meetings in San Jose. And I almost, for a brief second, announced myself as an alcoholic, but the more that I listened, the more I found the differences. So I didn't. I go, oh, I'm not like these people. Ooh, I just drank a little too much once in a while on a daily basis. So she goes, I think you need more help. So I called the benefits office. I'm with the union. I have great benefits. And I happened to get a hold of a woman who I'd met before. I would call her at that point an acquaintance. And she said, yeah, there's help available. And she gave me 9 different places I could go. And I chose the camp in Scotts Valley, which turned out to be just an awesome place. Now, my interpretation is I didn't go there to get sober. First of all, I went there to give my liver a rest for 30 days because it hadn't had a rest in like 33 years. And maybe these people could teach me how to drink normally, which I'd never done at all. And I knew it would help me with the shit ton of trouble I was in. That's why I went.
That's why you went. What was
So,
your experience like, let's say in the first week or so? Were you getting the message that these people wanted you to quit drinking forever?
well, this was where the honesty came in. That first day, they get together in the afternoon and they go around the room and they introduce themselves that my name is and I am. And they got to me, and I'm in a room full of 40 strangers who I had never seen before. I didn't, like I said, I had a different interpretation while I was there. And they got to me, and that was the first honest time ever in my life, without kidding about it, said, my name is Stephen and I'm an alcoholic.
Wow.
And I cried because I knew something had changed at that point. Just those words came out, and it was like almost a relief. But then I still didn't know what I was in for. But then in that first week, we read out of the big book every day. They keep you pretty busy with different things. They bring in doctors to tell you about the disease. You read the doctor's opinion. You learn a little bit more. You go to meetings. So they keep you pretty busy. And I thought, while I'm here, I may as well listen to what these people have to say. And maybe I can get something out of it. And that was probably in the first week. I also found my first prayer, which was, God, please help me today. And that was the best I could do. And that was good enough.
You didn't grow up with any kind of religion?
I I was forced to go to church. My grandmother, Italian, but not Catholic. They were Baptist. They went to the First Baptist Church. Yeah. But the one on the hill, anyway, in San Jose, I would go Sunday. Of course, my grandfather didn't have to go. I never could figure that out, but Grandma would take me, and so it never really stuck. I learned some stuff. I was in the kids part of the church, and so I heard the stories, but it wasn't organized religion. Really wasn't part of my life. I tried a couple other things. My brother was a Buddhist. Tried that for a while. I would chant with him, and that didn't stick, and a couple other things. And so,
What do
but
you,
I always believed there was some kind of higher power, something out there.
right? Can you speak a little on your evolution of your higher power?
Yeah, like I said, that first prayer, God, please help me today. That's where it started. I started saying more prayers after the second weekend. They actually have a family day where the family can come and see you in rehab. And my wife came, and I was so happy. And she brought another person with her who I thought was her Al-Anon sponsor. And when I reached out my hand and said, "Oh, hey, my name is Stephen," and she goes, "I'm the process server." And I got served right there in front of a bunch of my clients. And if it wasn't for a couple of those people who I started getting to be friends with, and one of the counselors, there's a liquor store not too far down the road from the camp, and that's where I was headed. But they stayed with me for about three hours. And every day after that, I started saying more prayers, but I think I was just saying them because I knew that there was something there. I didn't know how God worked, how my higher power worked. I still don't, which is a good thing, because if I knew how he worked, I would be manipulating him. But I started developing, prayer and a contact. You're talking about in the Redwoods is where this rehab center is. So it's kind of spiritual there to begin with. And we heard, in the beginning that when we were reading like the second step, you can choose whatever you want. And nature was something that kind of had that power, that
Yeah.
higher power for me.
Listen, it's been a long time since that first, 2000. That was a long time ago, and I totally relate to the whole finding spirituality through nature. In the beginning, I grew up religious, Baptist. I spent a lot of time at the First Baptist Church in Cupertino, so
All right.
totally get it. But I had to start over and figure out something that actually made sense to me, and finding nature and science and sort of, anyway, I found a way for it. I needed the evidence. I'm sure you can relate to needing to find evidence. Um, Tell me a little bit, like, I feel like you and I were so lucky that we were in San Jose when we got sober and had access to such great meetings. Can you sort of tell me what it's meant to you to be in the middle of this amazing community of recovery?
Well, first of all, if you can't find a meeting in the Bay Area, you're not looking, because there are literally meetings everywhere. Now, I didn't stray too far from, well, we used to be Attitude Adjustment, and it's still at Denny's. So everything's an offshoot of Alana West. ODAT started from, a resentment in a coffee pot. That's how new meetings are started. So ODAT split off from the Denny's original Alana West group. And that's how ODAT was started. But I've gone to a lot of different meetings throughout, and I chair some now on Zoom, and some especially in person. But just that whole listening to different people, I think, was and listening to their little nuggets of wisdom and what they went through. I'm not going to live long enough to make all the mistakes that there can be. But people come in and they talk about these mistakes, and I listen and I go, wow, if I am ever in that situation, there's another tool for me to use. I know that this person made it through. I want to know how. So that was really powerful, to be able to be exposed not only to the 6 a.m. meeting, but to other meetings, and listen to, because, you got younger meetings, you got the old timers meetings, you have speaker meetings, they have sometimes even famous people come. And that's really powerful. And that whole thing was just powerful. Where I have my other house, there's 3 meetings, and they're all a half hour to 45 minutes away. There's one on Monday and one on Tuesday and Thursday in a different town. And that's the only sobriety that's up there as far as meetings wise.
Right.
So it's much more difficult in some areas. But we're truly blessed. We were truly blessed to be here in the Bay Area with so many meetings and so much sobriety.
Yeah, it is really interesting to be able to see all the different walks of life come in and hear, like in church, they call it testimonies. In sales, they call it like case studies. And really, it's so interesting to see people tell their story, just regular people, right? Because we begin to believe you see it and then you believe it. And sometimes you believe it and then you see it. But thinking like, oh, if this person can do it, because I relate to them, they were just like me. Maybe if they can do it, I can do it, right? It's sort of like this epiphany bridge where before you're in denial, my drinking's not a problem. This is actually the thing I love most in the world, to that epiphany. It's like, no, this is actually a problem, right? And these people are showing me that there's a sufficient substitute, right? And then we band together. I just love how, especially that 6 a.m. meeting, I have the same feeling that you did, that it's so early in the morning that you don't have time to put on your armor and
Absolutely.
put up a front. And it's such a loving, nurturing group. So fast forward to today. Tell me a little bit about how your relationships have changed with your like your kids, maybe your ex. What's life for you like today?
It's funny you bring that up. My daughter and I, and she used to come to meetings with me when she was small,
Yeah.
and every so often. Now she's got a career job, so she doesn't have the hardly time to even go shopping with me. But we still communicate, almost on a daily basis. My son, not so much. I think he really kind of blamed me for what happened and the whole divorce and everything. And just recently, and this will make your heart swell. I was at the lake house, and he called me and he said, "Hey, I was gonna surprise you, but I felt I needed to call you. I'm gonna get my motorcycle license, and my plan was to get my license, to buy a bike on my own, and then drive up and say, 'Hey, Dad, let's go for a ride.'"
Oh my goodness.
And it's like, oh my God, because we went from not estranged, but not really spending a lot of time, not like when they were really young, to this. We found some common ground a few years back, but it was still kind of sporadic. But we get more and more contact. We kind of built on that, and then for this to come out of the blue, it was just like, oh my gosh. Now, speaking of the ex-wife, I never wanted to contact her for anything. There was nothing I needed to talk to her about, except when it came to the kids. So that was the only time that we actually ever had communication. Her father passed away a few years back, and we had maintained friendship. She asked me because his house, he was a hoarder. I mean, as far as he was an electrical contractor, so he had tons of equipment and materials. And she knew that I was doing metal art because of my daughter. And she said, hey, have your dad come over and see if there's anything that he may want. Well, I brought a whole van full of stuff back, which was pretty cool. And so she kind of alluded to my daughter, hey, do you think maybe he could make something for me out of some of the stuff that I got? Well, I was making silverware art at the time, and I'd make birds out of forks and spoons and knives. Yeah. So I made this bird, and I put it on like a stem of a flower and made a little flower, and I stuck it in a piece of wood from my property, and I gave it to her. And she, you could see the tears in her eyes. And that was kind of the beginning of, I guess we could communicate a little bit now. I'd gone over to help via my daughter to help her with a fan issue in her bathroom, got it to a certain spot, changed it, but it still had some electrical stuff that I couldn't fix. And then recently I went over that she called and she goes, "Hey, can you unweld a weld?" Well, first she wanted to talk about the daughter's new career path. She's a dispatcher for the fire department now. And so it went almost immediately in, "Hey, by the way." So I go, "Well, what do you got going on?" "Well, I have this fence that has a couple of things welded on. I wanted to put a new latch in." She goes, "Can you help?" And I go, "Yeah, sure. What are you doing right now?" And that took her completely by surprise. It would have probably been like a week later or something. I go, "I'll be over. Let me get some tools." So I go over there. I see what's going on. I take care of it like almost immediately. And I think it was totally unexpected on her part and kind of on my part too, that I go over there just because, I put this woman through so much uh, grief during our marriage. It was kind of a way to giving back. And then she asked about, "Hey, do you know how to program a sprinkler timer?" And I go, "Let me take a look at it, while I'm here." And so I programmed that. And then it was like, "Thank you." And I go, "You're welcome." And with no expectation of anything. That's the kind of change that I have in my life with not only my kids, but now recently, even with her. Um, you know, even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, that really wasn't beyond the plate. And, I think through all the things that I've gone through and looking back and the changes in me, that I can be that different person. My daughter keeps telling, because she would start on some rant about me, and my daughter would say, "Mom, he's not that same person you knew." And that's absolutely true.
Yeah, I really feel like that's getting some echo. I just feel like that's a testament to, the program, right? Is like we show up, we trust the process, we take some actions, and we are transformed. We are different, and I just love how, the fences are mending. Is it the fences are mending? The relationships are mending, and, the bygones, right? And I know you to be a man of integrity, and I know you do the work of the program, and we can make amends, but it's not people, need to go through their own process at their own time, and our job is to just stay open for when they're ready.
We have to make the living amends,
Yeah.
and we can't just talk about it. People have to see that we're walking that talk, that we're doing what we say we're going to do. And then, of course, lately I've been helping people with different projects. One of our members, she's getting ready to move. She had a crib. This is back to the hobbies. She had a crib that she says, "Hey, can we take this apart?" It was a family crib from her uncle, and she didn't want to just see it go to the dump. So she said, "Hey, can we make something out of this?" So we talked a little bit, and she brought it over, and we deconstructed it, and we're making an American flag out of it. And it's like, I just want to do this because it's fun. She's helping out and she's getting something out of it and she's having fun. And it's awesome. I can do that stuff today. Whereas before it's like, "Yeah, I'll help you do this, but now you owe me. And I'll
Right.
definitely collect." That's what my old mentality was.
Right. It's amazing. Like when you have all that you need, we become generous, giving, open-hearted people. And that's when I think of you, that's definitely how I see you. Just
Well, and
open-hearted and
the
generous.
cans that I give out to people.
Uh-huh. I had one.
Yeah.
Wonder where that is. I need a new one.
Uh-oh. You know what? I might have to send Tyler one too, because he did.
That's right. That's right. Well, listen, I want to be respectful of your time, but I just wanted to thank you so
Oh, it's got to
much.
go now. I want to go for another hour.
Yeah, well, we probably could. There's a lot to talk about,
Oh man.
But thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been such a pleasure to have you today, and thank you so much for taking such good care of my boy.
Well, I miss you in the rooms, and
Oh,
but it's great to see you pop on once in a while. At least on Zoom. Thank goodness, what a great environment to be able to connect with people that have moved away, and or that just can't be there for whatever reason. So that's just another tool that we've come to accept, and it's opened a lot of doors for not only in the United States, but there's people in
worldwide.
Wales. Yeah, we're ODAT's worldwide. It's crazy how big and where we attract people and how they found out about us. But it's been such a pleasure and an honor to be on your podcast. I hope the listeners had fun with us, and I know I did.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good to hear your story, and just it's been so good to spend some time with you. Miss all of our friends back home, but I'm glad that you and I got a chance to chat one-on-one, and thank you so much for sharing your story.
Give Bob a hug for me too.
I will.
All
Have a
right, all
great
right.
day. Thank you
Okay,
so
you
much.
too. Bye,
Okay.
Arlena.